People don't understand that we're born with life lessons. If you have a lesson to learn, then that means you have a blind spot, like you don't know something. And the worst part about this is when you're born, you have these life lessons. So you have a view of life that's only accurate from your perception with the total absence of what you're supposed to learn. You are handicapped in your perceptions of what you think you're seeing because you don't understand you have these life lessons.
Welcome to the Super Clinic Project Podcast, where we take regular clinic owners and turn them into cash-based multimillionaire entrepreneurs. Warning, if you're a doctor who listens to this podcast regularly, you will make millions of dollars. Do not listen to this podcast unless you want to be a successful clinic owner who helps thousands of patients achieve their health goals and adds more money than you can imagine to your bank account. You've been warned.
Hey guys, welcome to the Super Clinic Project Podcast, where we take regular clinic owners and turn them into super clinic owners. Sometimes we invite incredible people to be our guest, and today is no exception. Today's guest believes the two most important days of your life are the day you are born and the day you discover why. 30 years ago, he had money, lived in a beautiful place on earth, the definition of having it all. And he walked out to a path of spiritual transformation where he learned the secret for him and others to live with passion, purpose, and prosperity. So please welcome Bill Heinrich, the founder of True Life Purpose Now. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here, Jennifer. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm really excited to be able to talk with you and to find this out. Our audience is a lot of doctors and functional medicine clinics and clinic owners. And a lot of them, there was something that I read that I was very interested in. I want you to talk a little bit about it. And is when you say people are living with a blindfold on. And I find that we have clinic owners, they have purpose in their life, but they get to where there's just these blinders and they feel unpurposeful and they feel stuck and they don't know why. And so I want you to talk a little bit about that, about the blinders and the things that might be blinding us from our biggest, boldest version of ourselves.
Well, it wouldn't be the biggest and boldest. It would be the truest, authentic parts of ourselves is what it is. It isn't about being big and bold. It's about being true and authentic. And here's when I walked away from my life, I was just not fulfilled. I was miserable and I had to go find out why. So I started researching it. Well, I found out why, but I also found the resources to change everything. And so for the last 15 years, I've worked with doctors, celebrities, CEOs, you name it. And what happens is people don't understand that we're born with life lessons. Now, if you have a lesson to learn, then that means you have a blind spot, like you don't know something. And the worst part about this is when you're born, you have these life lessons. So you have a view of life that's only accurate from your perception with the total absence of what you're supposed to learn. So it's the same as being born with one leg. You are handicapped in your perceptions of what you think you're seeing because you don't understand you have these life lessons. Consequently, now I'll ask you this question and you tell me if you've recognized this with friends. Have you noticed that some friends just have problems with money? Some friends just have problems in relationships. Some friends just have problems with overgiving. Have you noticed that?
Yeah,
And they do it again and again and again.
Yeah, it's a cross. I would say everyone has their own cross to bear. Some people are born with a disability. Some people are very, very beautiful, but they have a personality disorder or something. Everybody's got their cross to bear.
Well, this is the reason people do that. And there's a saying that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And what brings that up is the life lessons. We live with boundaries on our ignorance that are absurd. We live in such a narrow boundary world protecting our space. And there's this whole universe that everybody's missing out on. because of that, because of their perceptions, their inner beliefs. There's so many other things that fall into line with that. But that's why, yeah, they have people living with a blindfold on, making decisions based on who they aren't. This is true of everyone, absolutely everyone. We have misperceptions of how we feel that people are treating us or speaking to us. That's all caused by this need to protect our inadequacies, which we've learned to do in a life of survival.
Do you feel that that's what's blocking people from finding their true purpose, or these
Oh,
limiting
no question.
beliefs?
No question.
What are
Yeah.
the tools that you use with people who you see that their fears or these limiting beliefs of how they're interacting with the world are actually stopping from them to being themselves more fully and more fully authentic?
There's a number of things. The very first thing is this is when you look in the mirror and you see yourself, that is not you. That is a physical representation of your energy in that moment. You do not look the same today as you did a few years ago. We're all changing because as we age, we continue to change. It's our energy that determines who we are. So the day we die, what you see in the mirror staying here, your energy leaves. That's what dies. Your body is just the case that carries your energy.
What's weird is they have this interactive display, and they call it the true mirror. And it is a mirror that's developed for you to see how someone would see you, like the most truest reflection, because actual mirrors give you a different reflection than
Well,
if you're looking at
the
someone.
mirrors in the stores are very deceiving. They're
Yes,
set up
yes.
intentionally to make you look thin
Right.
yeah,
And then there's a difference between the glass and the backing that
yeah,
gives the
yeah,
different
yeah,
distortion.
yeah.
And so it is odd to see people see themselves. They feel like it's very disconcerting and not in a good way for most people. What is interesting is how sometimes upset the people get when they go
Hmm.
and they see the true mirror. They do not like that, because
Hmm.
what they've been seeing is what they had as the vision in their heads, and
It's
this
their
is different.
misperception. Yeah,
Yes, it's
yeah.
very
So,
disconcerting.
so if you or anybody else listening to this, if I said, I want you to go to a special time in your life, okay? In fact, you were talking to me about the celebration for Fat Tuesday that they have down there,
Yeah,
and
today.
you were talking about the beads and the kids, okay? But but what you're really talking about is the way everybody feels. That's the
Absolutely, that feeling of community. And so I was telling him before the show that today is Fat Tuesday here in Galveston, and that is a very local type of parade event. You know, the crowds
Mhm.
from Houston that come drown travel anywhere from 40 to over 100 miles, because Houston is huge, to come here. They're gone. They're usually back at work today, and this is just for locals. And the
Mhm.
kids get so loaded up they can barely see through the beads, the little kids, but it really is that it's family and friends. It's
It's
low key, but
but
it's
but it's
very,
the
very,
energy
yes, it's
of
that
it.
energy of
And
family friendly. It's very
if
much
the
of that.
tourists aren't here, their energy isn't there. And
Right.
their energy is more of a partying energy and that kind of thing, right?
Yes.
So this is very important because there's a saying that says people will never remember what you said, but they'll always remember how you made them feel.
Feel. Yeah.
Feel. That's the energy piece. They aren't going to remember what you looked like. They're going to remember how you made them feel. So when you look at that, that's your purpose is the energy that you do things with. And when you consider the energy when you consider your energy can only create love. It can feel fear, but it can't create fear. Fear gets created in your head. Fear gets created by your ego. Fear is only associated with your physical life and survival. Period. End of conversation. So I teach people how to live energetically because when you're living energetically, that's where all of your power, all of your purpose, prosperity, everything comes from, is your energy. It's the energy that you think, say, and do things with. That's all that counts.
I think that's interesting when we talk about this, because we had just been talking about this with our clinic owners in the sense of sales. Healthcare professionals are like, I'm not a salesperson. I'm not going to be selling someone a car. I'm there to help them. And when a healthcare professional truly is set in their center of energy, of purpose, of helping,
Uh-huh.
they are able to convert, back now using
It's
sales language. All of a sudden people are like, yes, that
I
$4,500 program or $8,000 program is what I want. All of a sudden it's less about those money objections that they were like, oh, it's just too much, it's just too this, it's that. Those go away, and it's, well, how are we going to make it happen? Do you have financing? Do you have care credit? It's very different when you really believe in what you're doing and that end
well,
result of helping that human
it's
being, then I'm
it's
selling them.
actually it's actually a should be a value proposition.
Yes, absolutely.
It's a value proposition, and it's not based on dollars and cents, but it's based on the core beliefs that the clinic owners have, and the energetic representation of who they are and what they do. I have
Very
a
much so.
I have a very successful financial services client that works with me. I got him to stop selling completely, and his business tripled.
Funny how that
Be-
happens.
because he goes in and meets with the people and takes care of them.
Yeah.
Then they take it away from him. He doesn't have to sell anything, and his business continues to expand. The selling is, when you're selling, what you're doing is you're using logic to overcome objections. So it's just it's a grind. It's resistance on both sides. Well, yes, but that rather than, here's what's going to
Listening.
take you to optimum health, right? And here's the benefits of it, and
Yeah,
connecting with the people.
I think so too. I think that, in fact, I have a client, and we took them from 200,000. They were stuck at almost 200,000 for like 12 years. And we do an accelerator program with our clients are familiar with this, but at the end of 4 months, we got them to over 300. And one of the things the owner did, not only was the entire staff on board
Mm-hmm.
with the vision and the mission, they all were, I'm going to tell you, it was a
Mm-hmm.
very plugged in staff that this owner had cultivated. But one of the things he did is, we have a call center. He said, I started listening to what the patients did on the call center, because we have recordings. He said, so before I'd go in the morning, I'd look at my new patients and I would listen and I'd write notes on their complaints, so that when I walked in, and this is a very busy physician. This is meaning that he took time from something else he wanted to do to put it into this. And he said, but when I walked in, he said, I no longer get financial objections. And I said, well, explain that to me. And he
Mm-hmm.
said, well, because I would use their words back. And then you said it like this. Can you ask me about this? And he said, all of a sudden, I feel like they could understand. And I was able to demonstrate in a new way how much I really cared for them, and what
Exactly.
they were going
Exactly.
through. And
Exactly.
that was one of just many little things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that was exponentially changed what they did. And it was just being more purposeful and mindful, rather than, let me just get through this appointment, let me get to the next patient, oh, we've got 15
Exactly.
things today. And that sort of, when you were talking about these blinders and
Mm-hmm.
turning your existence into a grind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's about being able to connect authentically
Yeah,
with the patients.
absolutely.
That's what he was doing. The patients were knew they were being heard, and they were talking to somebody that they knew cared about them. None of which you can't buy this, you can't rent it, you can't steal it. You just have to be it. And when you are it, what happens is, see, the world's a mirror. Everything you see in the world is you. That's all that's in the world is you.
Love that.
Everything everything you see is a reflection of you. So when a physician is doing that and handling somebody with empathy and understanding, the reflection back to the people is so powerful. They feel like one, they feel they're connected. And consequently, the value is there. And the value that the patients are really looking for more than anything else is to be heard and know they're understood and that they can be taken care of.
What would you say? I know that you talk about the three most important keys to living your life purpose. And I think that in order for you to step into a role where that's how you operate in your life, that's how you operate in your business, or what we do with patients, you have to go through a process to get there. It isn't like you'll just go, oh, okay, I'm just going to be there. Right? That sounds easy. So when you're walking clients through it, can you talk about those important keys that you're taking them through to where they can make that progress to get to that place where they're more truly centered into
For
who they need to be?
for some people, it is actually that easy because what I
That's
teach
nice.
people, well, what I teach people is it's transformation at the speed of choice. And, and the only way that you can make a choice, okay, first of all, I tell all my clients I work with, never make another decision. Never again make another decision in your life, ever. Only make a choice. Decisions create stress. Decisions are based upon the judgment you're going to get from outside of yourself, what other people are going to think. When you make a choice, you're coming from power. You're doing it for your best interest in supporting you and who you truly are. And choices can be changed. I mean, just say it. I need to make a decision. I'm going to make a choice. There's a lightness that goes with it. Decision comes from the Latin words that means to cut off. That's what decision means. You're cut off. Choice is just a choice and you can change it tomorrow. So so that's really the first thing. The second thing is don't be defensive. There's nothing to defend because everybody's different. And if you can be open-minded, even though you have two people together that are totally different, you want to acknowledge and understand the differences because you can learn something. And when you learn something and what most people are doing when people are talking is they're thinking of how they're going to answer. They aren't connecting with them. If you're really empathizing with who you're communicating with and being an active listener, not being defensive, it will broaden your horizon. And when you broaden your horizon with open mindedness, what happens is you have more awareness. More awareness means you have more choices, you have more options that you can use, which, believe me, will come in handy at some point because everybody's different. Society wants us all to be the same, they want us all to fit in the same box. No two people are the same. It is that simple. We are totally, completely different. And it's being able to understand, respect, see who the other person is. So, what people end up doing all the time is they're defensive because they're protecting their point of view. And that's what the ego does. The ego tells us we need to be right. And it destroys us because you get locked down holding a position and you just miss out on many, many parts of life. And understand that it's all about the energy. It's just about the energy. That's all that matters. This is the only thing. Anybody that goes back to a special moment in their life, you go to how you felt. You don't go to what happened. It's how you felt in that situation. And then you remember the physical circumstances. So when you connect with people energetically, I worked with a doctor's office, a doctor and her partner in Phoenix. And the, the, the one that ran the office, not the doctor, started every sentence with no. Literally started every sentence with no. It was just a habit. They were Italian. They were from Chicago. It was the culture. It was the upbringing. And it was amazing because when I pointed it out to them, I didn't know if they were going to be able to make the changes that would really change their life. But she changed very, very quickly, and stopped it. And it completely just She was always protecting her position. She was working hard, didn't think anybody appreciated it. The doctor was working hard doing her thing and didn't think anybody appreciated the work she was doing, and nobody listened to her. And it was just this, and this is so typical of life. I mean, I could go through all the situations of the hundreds of people I've worked with. It's it's an absence of communication. And when you come from a place of love and you have nothing to defend, then you can hear what somebody else says. So what? We're different. So what? Even you don't like me, you don't like whatever. That's your, you can have your opinion. I don't care. You can't. The only one that can hurt me is me. No one else can. It's only me that can hurt me. So defensiveness is really at the root of all evil, because
That's really interesting because the protecting the opinion, especially when you're thinking about the dynamic that I think about with just the doctor and the patient, or the boss and the staff. They're like, well, yes, because mine is the opinion that matters. If they don't do what I'm going to do, they're going to get sick and then they're going to die, or whatever it is. And you're not saying that the truth can't come out and that person can't get led down a path. You're just saying being open energetically to their point of view so that you can better lead them to seeing the
you
flaw
can
in their
understand them.
logic. Yeah, because they might have
Right.
a flawed logic in why
And maybe not.
they've done
Maybe
it.
they don't.
Well, maybe they don't, or maybe they're worried,
They're worried. Their point of view is coming from an angle that doesn't support what they really want to accomplish. It's not the
right,
best path. There's many, many reasons that could be happening.
right.
And it's the ability, I had a client the other day, really, this happens very rarely, but boy, we got into it because I mentioned something about how they looked. I wanted to talk about it. They came back and said, "Why are you judging me?" I said, "I
Hmm.
didn't judge you." Well, you did. Da, da, da. Well, the moment you go to defensive, here's what happens. You choose the role of the victim. And when you're a victim, you give your power away to the other person.
Yeah.
When you have power, you can just sit there and have a conversation. But the minute you're pointing your finger outside of you, all of your power is going with that, and you're playing the role of the victim.
You know,
And victims can only suffer.
that's interesting because that was brought up. I was listening to the team of Warby Parker, who is like, now they're valued like a $7 billion, eyeglass company. And they started out sending glasses home. The first one where you could try them on at home and bring them back. So anyway, it was just a team of people and they had a problem. The glasses are too expensive and I can't find it. They decided to have this company, and they decided that like once every quarter they would go back to the bar that they talked about, and they would talk about things. And on this one instance, the three owners went to the bar, and now they all had different parts. One was marketing, one was the actual CEO, the other one was this. And they go there and they said, so what do we want to bring up? And one of the guys said, I just need to bring up that I work just as hard as everyone else, and blah, blah, blah. Bob sends me you, and you send me these emails at 3 a.m., blah, blah, blah. Well, I have a family, but I work as hard as everyone else. And this resentment of getting these
Right.
messages at 3 a.m. and this just spilled out into this thing. And so at the end of it, the other guy said, well, that's just because of when I'm up, I don't expect you to do that. That was never, it all came out in the wash that there was no negative intent. And so now a company policy is
Mm-hmm.
always assume positive intent
Right.
and then question that positive intent. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Or if you do have a boundary, if it bothers you, just say, can you schedule that to come to me? Because for some reason I hear it because I need to keep it on because of the kids, and then I'm up. And so it messes with my sleep. Right. Or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, and then work it, because you've got to assume positive intent. So it's interesting that even in a coaching aspect where you're just trying to bring up things, obviously it's in coaching, it is positive intent.
Mm-hmm.
The whole idea is to help each other, get to the next level. That they felt attacked, a
Mm-hmm.
little bit on that. That's
Another thing, Another thing that's very important uh, for all the clinic owners and people listening to this is everything that you do in your life, and most especially your business, you have chosen to do this to learn the lessons that you're here to learn to heal your soul. Family, every aspect of your life, you are here to learn about these lessons, these blind spots. This is why you keep running into rough spots because you've got these blind spots. None of it is like work is not different than personal. It is all the same, 100% the same. And to keep that in mind, that the challenges you're encountering are here to help take you to a higher vibration level to be able to live life more authentically and more powerfully as you encounter those different lessons. It is inevitable. It's inevitable.
Yes. And those are great words to end it with. We are already, I feel like we just started this conversation and we're already at the end of our time. And guys, we have been with Bill Heinrich. And if you go to truelifepurposenow.com, you'll be able to hear a lot more from him and find out more about him and what he can do for you. I want to thank you, Bill, for showing up today and having this incredible conversation. I hope that we can bring you back again. And for everyone who's listening, remember you can listen to Super Clinic Project podcast on all platforms, including superclinicproject.com. We do have a free school platform. So if you go to superclinicproject.com and you go and click on school, you can get in for free. We'll have the podcast episodes there. And then we also have downloads and great freebies. We'll have like some handouts and more information about Bill that are going to be attached to this episode here, along with the free trial to our mastermind. And if you love hearing from people like Bill who just expand our consciousness and help us to become our true, most authentic selves, then please go to our website, click the easy links. You can follow, you can rate. There's even a place where you can give us a voice message. And if you do that, and if you want to be on the show, you can ask us a question, or you can even ask a question directly to Bill. I'll be happy. And Danny, my podcast manager, will send it to him, and then you guys can communicate. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you so much, Bill, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Have a great day.
You've been listening to the Super Clinic Project podcast. If you like what you hear, subscribe and stay tuned for further episodes of the Super Clinic Project podcast.